We're going to continue on from our previous video by doing two more examples. These ones are a little bit more complex, and you are more than welcome to pause the video before I start an example so you can attempt it on your own. Okay, so let's start with the first question. It reads, Randy wants to drill a hole in the center of a drawer, front. If the front of the drawer measures 30 centimeters by 15 centimeters, where's the center located from the edges of the drawer front? So this is a bit of an unusual question because the way we solve it might be a little bit different than how we would actually find the center in real life. So let's start by drawing a visual. Okay. So roughly, the drawer front will look something like this. The length of the drawer front is 30 centimeters, and the width of it is 15 centimeters. Now, if I had this drawer front with me, I might choose to use the diagonal method to find the center. So that would include me drawing a straight diagonal line going this way, and then that way, and where the two lines meet, that would be the center. So that's one way to do it. However, there is a more precise way that involves measuring. And I'm going to start explaining that method by reviewing the paper folding method. If you recall, one of the earlier videos in this section was about paper folding. And we said that if we had a rectangle and we wanted to know the midpoint of the rectangle, we can take this side of the paper and fold it onto the other side. So we're going like this. And what that would do is it would form a crease going this way, right? Now that crease is in the center of this side and that side. So it's straight in the middle. So it's the halfway point of 30, okay? So to find where this location is, we take 30 and we divide it by 2. Now to find the other center, what we would have done if we had a piece of paper is we would have folded this side upwards this way, and that would have formed a crease going horizontally like this. Now that's halfway between this edge and this edge, right? So basically that's it's a half of 15. So to find where this location is, we take 15 and we divide it by 2. Now that would overlap, and that overlap here would be the center of the rectangle. And that's essentially the strategy that we're going to use today, but we're not going to fold a piece of wood. We're just going to take measurements instead. Okay? So the first step we said was to take 30 and divide it by 2. Now, half of 30 is 15 centimeters. Okay? So the distance from here to here is 15 centimeters. Okay? Now, the second step would be to take 15 and divide that by 2. And half of 15 is 7.5 centimeters. So the distance from here to here is 7.5. Now, if we measure those using a ruler or a straight edge, I measure 7.5 centimeters this way, and I draw a line, and I measure 15 centimeters, and I draw a line on my drawer. Where they meet would be the center. Okay, so how do I answer this question? I would just say, Randy will need to measure 15 centimeters horizontally and 7.5 centimeters vertically to find the center of the drawer front. All right, so that's one way of finding the center of this. Now, if you find other ways, I would be very interested to hear about them. Let's have a look at another example. Now, this one is an extension. What that means is that we're not going to be talking about midpoints anymore. We're going to take the concepts we learned when we explored midpoints, and we're going to apply them to questions where we have say 5 equal groups or 10 equal groups or 17 equal groups, as opposed to 2 equal groups like we did every single time with midpoints. So let's have a read. Alex has a piece of ribbon that measures 5 feet in length. He needs to cut several 8.5-inch pieces for a project he's working on. How many pieces can he cut from the length of ribbon? So let's start by drawing a visual. Okay, so let's say this is the piece of ribbon that Alex has, and I'm going to write the length up top, so it's 5 feet long. And what Alex needs to do is Alex needs to measure 8.5 inches, and then he needs to cut where that measurement is. And then he needs to do that again. This is 8.5 inches, and then cut here, and then do that again. This is 8.5 inches. I think you are starting to see a pattern here, right? And then there's another 8.5 inches, and so on. If we were working with midpoints, we would just have 2, because by definition, a midpoint means dividing something into 2 equal parts. But here we have multiple groups. So what we're doing is we're taking the total, which is 5 feet, and we're splitting it into equal groups of 8.5 inches. And that's basically a division question. Okay, so what we're doing is we're taking 5 feet and we're dividing it into 8.5-inch groups. And we want to know the number of groups that we end up with. Or in this scenario, it would be the number of ribbons, right? Or pieces of ribbon, let's say. Now, that's all we need to do really, is we just need to divide. But there's a tiny problem, okay? I'm curious to see if you figured it out at this point. The problem is that our units are different. This is in feet and this is in inches. We can't divide them when the units are different. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to convert either this feet into inches or these inches into feet. It doesn't really matter which one you pick, because our answer will be the number of pieces. So it really doesn't matter. I personally would like to convert the feet to inches because I'd rather not work with fractions. Okay? So nothing wrong with fractions. I'd rather take the easy way out here. So I've got 5 feet and I need to convert them to inches. So I'm going to multiply that by 12 because 1 foot is equal to 12 inches. So I have 5 feet. So that would give me 60 inches, right? Now, I'm going to write that right below it. So this is 60 feet. Nope, not feet. Come on. Here we go. 60 inches. That's better. And I'm going to divide it by 8.5 inches. And that will give me my answer. How do you plug this into your calculator? You are more than welcome to write 8.5 as 8.5. It's totally okay. So 60 divided by 8.5 will give us 7.05882 ... That means we have 7 whole numbers, and then we have some change. This is a fraction of a piece of ribbon. So this means that I will have 7 pieces of ribbon, and that's it. The amount that's remaining is not enough to create an 8.5-inch piece of ribbon, so we don't consider it. So Alex will only be able to get 7 pieces of 8.5 inches of ribbon from his roll. Okay, so that concludes our examples on midpoints. Practice, 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 and then attempt the questions in the module and get help if you're stuck. Best of luck.